Here's the recap of the first season of Fallout. In this world, technological progress has been much faster than ours, and some of the tech is more advanced, but society itself is hovering in the 50s. All countries were on the brink of nuclear war, and a corporation called Vault Tech C took advantage of people's fear. They built over 100 shelters all over America and launched a massive advertising campaign. One day the bombs start falling and people rush to their shelters. On the surface, almost everyone dies, and those who manage to survive are doomed to terrible agony in the wasteland. 219 years go by. Vault number 33 is thriving. They live next door to the other bunkers number 31 and 32. There are passageways between them, but people can't just move around. Over the years, the shelters exchange missing resources and personnel when needed. The main character named Lucy is supposed to marry a citizen from Vault 32. The locals open the gateway and they get visitors. However, it soon turns out that they are raiders from the surface. The bandits start killing everyone, but the survivors manage to contain their aggression. Meanwhile, the leader of the raiders named Lee kidnaps Lucy's father, Hank. Then she goes to the Vault 32 and blows up the passage behind her. Lucy tries to convince the others that they need to go to the surface and return her father, who is the overseer of the vault. The locals do not agree with her. Then Lucy persuades her brother Norm and former lover Chet to help open the gate. She then sets out to find her father. On the surface, there is a paramilitary organization called the Brotherhood of Steel. Their goal is to collect pre-war technology and keep it out of the hands of ordinary civilians. The main character named Maximus joined the Brotherhood as a child and has been trained as a soldier ever since. One day he learns that his best friend Dane has become a squire, that is, an assistant knight in power armor. Maximus is jealous of him, and the next morning someone inserts a blade into Dane's boot and his candidacy is withdrawn. All suspicion falls on Maximus, but the elder cleric Quintus appoints the Maximus as the next squire. The boy and his knight are sent on a mission to find a scientist who has escaped from the Enclave and has the technology that will allow the Brotherhood of Steel to control the entire wasteland. The knight and his squire get into a vertibird and set off. Soon the man in the exoskeleton gets bored and descends to the ground, treating Maximus like garbage. Maximus tries to convince his superior to continue the search, but suddenly they are attacked by a mutant bear and he seriously injures the knight. Maximus thinks that Nick is not worthy of his armor and lets the man die. Maximus then puts on an exoskeleton and goes in search of the scientist. Meanwhile, we're shown the scientist. Wilzig worked for another paramilitary organization called the Enclave. Roughly speaking, they're what's left of the United States government. Wilzig steals a puppy from the lab and uses it to generate electricity in his improvised laboratory. After a few years, the scientist manages to create some tiny device that he injects into his neck. Soon his lab is discovered, and the man escapes from the Enclave with his dog. Now there is a bounty on him, and everyone in the wasteland is trying to find him. A group of bounty hunters dig up a coffin and retrieve a ghoul named Howard. The ghouls are incredibly resilient and hard to kill, but over time they lose their minds and become feral. The only way to maintain their consciousness is with a special drug. Howard has been roaming the wasteland since the beginning of the war and has established himself as the best bounty hunter. The trio tells the ghoul who they are looking for. Howard kills his saviors and goes in search of the scientist Wilzig himself. Lucy gets to a town called Philly, where she tries to find out about the woman who kidnapped her father. It turns out that Lee is a big shot in the local area, and no one wants to share information with Lucy. Soon, she accidentally meets the scientist Wilzig, who advises her to return home to the vault, as she doesn't belong in the wasteland. Suddenly, the ghoul Howard appears and wants to take the scientist with him. A fight breaks out and Maximus arrives at the party wearing power armor. But because of his inexperience, the guy loses to the 200-year-old bounty hunter. Meanwhile, the wounded Wilzig asks Lucy to take him to a certain place. At first, the girl refuses, but having learned that he goes to Lee, who kidnapped her father, agrees. On the way, the scientist tells Lucy that he will not survive with such an injury. He has already taken the poison and asks Lucy to cut off his head. It is in it that there is something that absolutely all organizations in the wasteland are looking for. The head must be brought to the right place, and then Lee will surely give Lucy her father. The girl cuts off the scientist's head, puts a search tracker in it just in case, and goes to the meeting place. Lucy reaches a pond where she is attacked by a huge monster, which swallows the scientist's head. At that moment, the girl catches up with Howard and uses Lucy as bait. But they do not succeed, and then he simply decides to forget about the head. Howard needs medication not to turn into a feral ghoul, so he decides to sell the girl. He takes her to a special place where she's going to be dismantled for organs. But Lucy manages to free herself. She demands that the bandits open the cages of all the prisoners. They follow her instructions, because of which the feral ghouls come out and kill the owners of the facility. Lucy gives Howard his medicine and leaves to look for the scientist's head. Maximus is trying to repair his armor after a fight with a ghoul and is suddenly called by his superiors over the radio. The guy is afraid to admit that the knight has been killed. So he introduces himself by his name and informs that the squire is dead. Maximus hopes that when he finds the scientist, the Brotherhood of Steel will forgive him for what he has done. Command sends a new squire named Thaddeus to him. Maximus gets into an exoskeleton and hides his face. They follow the ghoul's radiation trail and reach a lake, where they are attacked by the same huge monster. Maximus manages to kill it, and the monster spews out the scientist's head. Soon Maximus confesses to Thaddeus who he really is, and the squire tells him that he will tell the Brotherhood everything. Maximus breaks his leg and tries to kill him, but Thaddeus pulls a fusion reactor out of his armor and escapes with the scientist's head, leaving Maximus inside the disabled exoskeleton. Lucy accidentally bumps into Maximus and pulls him out of his armor. Maximus gives the girl anti-radiation medication as she is about to die. Together they go after the scientist's head and stumble upon a huge crater instead of a city called Shady Sands. This is where Maximus was born and where an organization calling itself the New California Republic was located. It was a large settlement where there was law and order. However, someone blew the place up with a nuclear bomb. Soon the main characters are attacked by cannibals and Maximus is injured. Lucy finds a well-preserved hospital, but there they get trapped. However, they come to their senses in the vault number 4. It turns out that the locals take in people from the surface, but Lucy notices some strange things. For example, some of the survivors have mutations, and those who came from outside worship the same Lee who kidnapped her father. Lucy wants to understand everything and gets into the forbidden 12th floor, where she finds a laboratory. It turns out that scientists were experimenting on pregnant women, creating horrible monsters. She also finds hibernation chambers with several girls in them. Lucy tries to escape and even injures one of the scientists, but she is caught and told the whole truth. It turns out that originally, Vault 4 consisted of only scientists. They really many years ago put in human experiments, but everything has changed. The locals, on the contrary, stopped all experiments, and those women she saw in the hibernation capsules, they keep, as they consider it is not humane to kill them. Lucy is expelled from the vault because she wounded one of them, and together with her Maximus goes to the surface. Thaddeus, with a broken leg, tries to find a communication tower to contact the Brotherhood of Steel and give them the scientist's head. The guy realizes that with such a wound he will die before he gets there, and accidentally bumps into a strange man who introduces himself as a doctor. He gives Thaddeus some medicine and his broken leg heals instantly. The doctor leaves, taking the fusion reactor as payment. Soon the guy finds a communication tower and calls the Brotherhood of Steel. Just at that moment, Lucy and Maximus find him. Careless Thaddeus activates the trap, but it turns out that the arrow in his neck didn't kill him. The main characters inform the squire that he has become a ghoul. The Brotherhood is bound to kill him, so Thaddeus escapes, leaving his head to Maximus. He gives it to Lucy, as he has fallen in love with the girl during the journey. Maximus orders her to run away, but he himself picks up some random head and returns to the base with it. The elder cleric Quintus finds out what happened to his knight, and also that it is not the scientist's head. However, the old man sees potential in Maximus, so he gives him another chance. Maximus is told where Lucy has gone and a whole platoon of the Brotherhood of Steel goes there. Throughout the season, we are shown what is going on at Vault 33, where Lucy escaped from. Her brother Norm begins to suspect that something is wrong with the Raiders' infiltration. Together with Chet, they excavate the blasted passageway to Vault 32 and discover that people died there years ago. They learn some terrible secret concerning the Vault 31, and as if they went crazy, killing each other. And the Raiders open the door from the outside, using his dead mother's key. The boy does not understand how this is possible, as it means that his mother once left this shelter. Norm soon learns that all the overseers of the vaults over the years have been transferred from Vault 31. Just at this time, the new overseer decides to repopulate Vault 32, where everyone has killed each other. The citizens go inside, but it turns out that the place has already been cleaned up and there are no traces of the massacre. Half of the bunker's population is sent there, and Stephanie, a young girl who also came to them a few years ago from Vault 31, is chosen as the overseer. Norm secretly sneaks into the command room and opens the gateway to the Vault 31. Once inside, he meets the local overseer. This is a brain in a jar who tries to stop the guy. Norm turns on the lights and discovers hundreds of hibernation chambers with people sleeping inside. The overseer informs him that he can't get out of here now, as he has learned too much. Lucy gets to the settlement where she was supposed to deliver the scientist's head. Lucy meets Lee and sees her father Hank in a cage. The girl proposes an exchange and Lee agrees, but before she tells her who Hank is and why this head is so important. It turns out that the scientist created the device of cold nuclear fusion, that is, you can say an infinite source of energy, and her father Hank knows the code to activate it. It's because Hank was born over 200 years ago. Meanwhile, we learn about Gull Howard's past. The man was an actor and his wife Barb worked in an executive position at Vault Tech. Howard, at the request of his wife, took part in the corporation's advertising campaign. His co-workers began to despise the man, as Vault Tech had established itself as a company that could be said to be approaching nuclear war. Howard begins to suspect that Vault Tech is hiding something from ordinary people. But his wife asks him not to worry, because thanks to her position they will get a place in the shelter. Moreover, she says that it will be a normal vault. Soon he is contacted by Lee, who in the future will kidnap Lucy's father. The woman suggests that Howard follow his wife and find out what Vault Tech is really up to. She gives him a bug and Howard overhears a secret meeting of the heads of the most powerful corporations in America. At the meeting, Barb suggests that the other participants invest in vaults. In doing so, she will allow them to create bunkers with such conditions and experiments as they themselves desire. Barb then informs the attendees that their corporation is going to detonate bombs in America on their own to start a nuclear war around the world. In this way, they will destroy everyone on the surface. The top executives will be put in cryo chambers, and when the time comes, they will lead the people out of the shelters and build a new world on the surface. Howard hears all of this. The man is shocked, and just at that moment, young Hank, Lucy's father, who also happens to work for Vault Tech, walks into the room. In the present day, Howard heads to Lee to ask her where his wife and child have gone since the nuclear apocalypse. Lee continues her story. She tells Lucy that Hank has the access codes to the cold fusion device, as Vault Tech has known about this technology for a long time. Years ago, Lucy's mother also found out about who Hank really is. She escaped with her children from a vault and met Lee. They settled in a town called Shady Sands, where a new California republic was running things and Lee was their leader. Soon Hank found out where his wife had run off to. He took the children back and blew up the town with an atomic bomb, where the mother died. Just then, the NCR base is attacked by the Brotherhood of Steel, and the soldiers make their way to the command center to retrieve the cold fusion device. On the way, they run into Howard, who easily takes out a group of military men. Maximus finds Lucy and learns that it was her father who blew up Shady Sands. The guy wants to kill him, but a man puts on an exoskeleton and knocks Maximus out. Howard shows up and wants to ask Hank where his family is, but the man escapes. Lucy asks why he let him go, and Howard admits that it would be easier to track Hank down than to interrogate him. He offers Lucy to go with him. Lucy agrees, and they are joined by the scientist dog, which has accompanied various main characters throughout the season in one way or another. Meanwhile, the mortally wounded Lee returns to the command center and starts up the cold fusion reactor that provides electricity to all of Los Angeles, after which the woman dies. At that moment, Brotherhood of Steel soldiers burst into the facility. They believe it was Maximus who killed Lee and got the cold fusion device for them. Meanwhile, we see Hank make his way to Vegas. This is the end of the first season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.